I still remember the weight of silence when I entered the ceremony hall. 6 years of secrecy. 6 years of letting my family believe I was nothing but a Navy dropout who could not cut it. My brother Jamie was about to receive his SEAL Trident, the pinnacle of his military career, with our entire family watching proudly. No one knew that beneath my civilian clothes lay a different truth, a classified reality I had been forbidden to share. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button. Growing up in the Prescott household meant one thing. Military service was not just encouraged, it was expected. My father, Richard Prescott, retired as a Marine Corps Sergeant Major after 27 years of distinguished service. His collection of medals filled an entire wall in our living room, a constant reminder of the legacy that loomed over both my brother Jamie and me. From the beginning, it was clear Jamie was the son who fit the mold perfectly. 3 years older than me, he had our father's broad shoulders, commanding presence, and natural athleticism. I, on the other hand, was leaner, quieter, more analytical traits my father considered soft in a military context. Darwin's got his head in the clouds again, Dad would say when he caught me reading, instead of joining their backyard football games. How's a dreamer going to survive boot camp? Despite these differences, I had my own burning desire to serve my country. While Jamie excelled in physical training and dreamed of becoming a Navy SEAL like our Uncle Thomas, I found myself drawn to strategy, language skills, and intelligence operations. My mother, Sarah, was the only one who seemed to understand. Different strengths served the same flag, she would whisper when Dad was particularly hard on me. Your mind is your weapon, Darwin. Never forget that. High school graduation marked the beginning of our divergent paths. Jamie enlisted immediately, making our father beam with pride as he shipped off to basic training. I chose a different route, applying to the Naval Academy, despite my father's doubts that I would make it through the rigorous selection process. The day my acceptance letter arrived was one of the few times I saw something close to approval in my father's eyes. Well, he said, clearing his throat, maybe there is something of a Prescott in you after all. My time at Annapolis surprised everyone, including myself. While not at the top of my class in physical training, my analytical abilities and aptitude for languages, Russian and Farsi, specifically caught the attention of several senior officers. By my 3rd year, I had been approached about a special intelligence program that operated separately from regular Navy operations. Captain Harrington, a stern-faced man with piercing eyes that seemed to read every thought, called me into his office one rainy Tuesday afternoon. Prescott, he said, without preamble, your language scores and analytical profiles have flagged you for consideration in a program I cannot name in this room. He slid a folder across his desk. This opportunity comes with conditions that will affect your personal life in ways you cannot currently imagine. Review these documents alone and make your decision by tomorrow. That night I read through the heavily redacted papers. The program offered accelerated advancement and worked directly impacting national security at the highest levels. The catch: absolute secrecy. If accepted, I would need to sever normal career tracking, including the visible progression my family expected. In essence, I would disappear into a shadow career that to the outside world, including my family, would look like failure. The next morning, I made the decision that would alter the course of my life and family relationships for years to come. I chose duty to country over transparency with my family. 2 months later, I made the most painful phone call of my life. Dad, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, I need to tell you something. What is it? His voice was already edged with suspicion. I am leaving the Navy program. The words felt like acid on my tongue. The silence that followed was deafening. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold with contempt. I knew you could not hack it. You never had what it takes to be a Prescott. Do not expect a welcome when you crawl back home with your tail between your legs. He hung up before I could respond. I stood there holding the dead phone, knowing I had just severed something fundamental between us and that I could not tell him the truth. What followed was a dual existence few could comprehend. Officially, Darwin Prescott was a Naval Academy dropout who could not meet the standards. A disappointment who drifted between vague government consultant jobs. In reality, I advanced rapidly through a classified intelligence operation, becoming one of the youngest field officers in program history. By 26, I had completed 3 critical overseas operations, learned 2 more languages, and received commendations I had to keep locked in a secure facility. No one at home knew. When I made rare visits, my father would barely acknowledge my presence. My mother tried to bridge the gap, but without knowing the truth, even she could not fully understand my choices. Meanwhile, Jamie flourished in his visible military career. Each accomplishment was celebrated loudly, each step toward his goal of becoming a SEAL, marked with family gatherings, and my father's booming voice declaring, "That is my boy." I attended these celebrations when security clearances allowed sitting quietly in corners absorbing my father's sideways glances of disappointment. The pain was constant, but my commitment never wavered. I had chosen this path, and despite the personal cost, I knew the work I was doing mattered. As the years passed, the divide between my family and me grew wider and more painful. While I rose through the ranks in my classified role, eventually reaching the rank of colonel before age 30, my family continued to see me as the dropout, the failure, the disappointment. My mother tried to maintain our connection, calling regularly despite my often lengthy absences due to missions I could never discuss. "Your brother made staff sergeant," she would say, her voice carefully neutral. "There was a ceremony last weekend." "That is wonderful, Mom." I would reply, trying to sound genuinely happy while swallowing the bitter knowledge that my own promotion to major had happened just days before, celebrated only within the classified walls of my unit. The hardest part was watching Jamie caught in the middle. He never fully embraced our father's dismissal of me, but the constant praise he received for following the proper Prescott path created an unavoidable wedge between us. Our childhood closeness faded into awkward holiday interactions when I could make it home. 3 years after my dropout event, I decided to visit home for Thanksgiving. I had not seen my family in person for over a year due to a long-term assignment overseas. The classified nature had been so complete that even my infrequent calls home had been restricted. The dinner started awkwardly but civilly. Extended family filled our childhood home: uncles, aunts, cousins, most of whom had accepted my father's narrative about my failure without question. I endured their pitying glances and careful avoidance of questions about my work. Then came the toast. My father stood at the head of the table, glass-raised eyes deliberately avoiding my corner of the room. "I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate family and gratitude," he began. "And I have special news to share. Jamie has been accepted into SEAL training, the final step toward achieving what Prescott men are born to do." Cheers erupted around the table. Jamie nodded modestly, shooting me an apologetic glance. "At least one of my sons makes me proud," my father continued, his voice cutting through the celebration. "At least one understood what it means to persist through challenges, rather than quitting when things get tough." The room fell silent. All eyes darted between my father and me. I sat perfectly still, my face carefully composed, despite the inferno raging inside me. Years of intelligence training had taught me how to mask my emotions, but nothing had prepared me for the public humiliation from my own father. "To Jamie," he concluded, raising his glass higher. "The true Prescott legacy." I nodded, raised my glass with the others, and somehow made it through the remainder of dinner. Later that night, my mother found me sitting alone on the back porch. "He does not mean it," she said softly, though we both knew that was not true. "He just does not understand why you left." "I know, Mom," I replied, unable to tell her that 2 days before this dinner, I had been in a classified briefing with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, presenting intelligence that would reshape military operations in 2 countries. That was the last family gathering I attended for nearly 2 years. My assignments grew more critical and dangerous, taking me deeper into worlds my family could never imagine. Then came the mission that nearly ended everything. Our intelligence unit had uncovered a plot involving a dirty bomb targeted at a major European city. The operation to neutralize the threat went sideways when our team was compromised. In the ensuing firefight, I took 2 bullets, extracting a crucial asset with information that ultimately saved hundreds, possibly thousands of lives. I spent 4 months in a military hospital, first fighting for my life, then slowly recovering. My superiors visited, bringing medals I would never be able to show my family. The cover story sent home was that I had taken a contract job overseas and was too busy to communicate regularly. My mother's increasingly worried messages went unanswered until I could physically speak on the phone again. When I finally called, my father answered. "So the prodigal son remembers he has a family," he said by way of greeting. "Hello to you too, Dad," I replied, the pain medication making it difficult to maintain my usual emotional distance. "While you have been off doing whatever it is you do, your brother has completed the first phase of SEAL training, top of his class." The pride in his voice was palpable. "There will be a formal ceremony when he receives his trident. You should come if you can be bothered to show up for something important for once." I closed my eyes, feeling the pull of the surgical staples across my abdomen. Staples from wounds received serving the country in ways he could not know. "When is it?" I asked quietly. 3 months from now, March 15th. He sounded surprised I was considering it. "I will be there," I promised. After hanging up, I called my commanding officer. For the first time in 6 years, I asked for a favor. "Sir, my brother is receiving his SEAL trident on March 15th. Given recent developments in our operation status, would it be possible to receive limited clearance to reveal my position?" There was a long pause. "The Secretary has been considering revising some of our cover protocols given the completion of Operation Kingfisher," he finally said. "Let me see what I can do. Your service record certainly warrants consideration." That call sparked a tiny flame of hope that perhaps after all these years, I might finally be able to step out of the shadows, at least within my own family. As the ceremony date approached, my physical recovery progressed, but my emotional state remained turbulent. The prospect of facing my father after years of enduring his contempt triggered complex emotions. Part of me yearned for vindication to see his face when he learned the truth. Another part feared what that revelation might do to our already fractured family. Would the truth heal or cause irreparable damage? I decided to attend in civilian clothes, hiding my rank and status until I received final clearance from my superiors. The journey to the naval base in Coronado was the longest flight of my life, despite having traversed the globe countless times on classified missions. The morning of Jamie's SEAL ceremony dawned bright and clear in San Diego. I dressed carefully in a conservative suit that would not attract attention, but could still respect the formality of the military occasion. The scar on my neck from the recent mission was still visible, but I opted against hiding it with a high collar. Some truths at least could be visible. My family had flown in the previous day. I had deliberately booked a different hotel, not yet ready for the extended interaction. Jamie had called me the night before, sounding genuinely pleased that I was attending. "It means a lot that you are coming, Darwin," he said. "More than you know." There was something in his tone. Something that made me wonder if he knew more than he was letting on. Several of my operations had interfaced with SEAL teams, though I had always ensured my name was compartmentalized from any briefs Jamie might access. "Would not miss it," I replied. "I am proud of you. There might be some interesting people there," he added cryptically. "Just keep an open mind, okay?" Before I could probe further, he claimed he needed to go for pre-ceremony preparations and hung up. I arrived at the ceremony hall 30 minutes early, hoping to slip in quietly. Instead, I nearly collided with my parents at the entrance. My mother's face lit up, and she embraced me warmly. My father offered a stiff nod and a cursory handshake. "You actually showed up," he remarked, his tone making it clear he had doubted I would. "I said I would be here," I answered simply. His eyes flicked to the scar on my neck.